A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you back to our session of GETI Talk. Today, I have somebody who can, talk about a teacher's role, which can be more defined, not just confined to instructing in the class and teaching the subjects, but a teacher can also be a coach in goal setting. And that is what Mr. Finbarr Buckley is going to talk about, who is my guest today. Thank you, Finbarr, for joining in the Disruptive Education Movement. And let me just tell you a little about this gentleman who is all the way from Ireland, but I think he fell in love with India 10 years back and he migrated to India. He has an experience in leadership training, not just schools, yeah, but corporates also. And right now he's settled in one of the most beautiful valleys of Mizoram. So, Finbarr, thank you once again for taking out time and being with us. And you just let us know a little more about yourself, your experiences with the schools in India, and then you can talk about the topic as well. So, the stage is all yours.
Good evening. Thanks very much for inviting me along this evening to be part of your show. And it's a real one particular aspect of the work of a teacher, which I believe is a missing link in our education system, and that is the teacher as a goal-setting coach. But before I begin, just to introduce myself briefly, as you mentioned, my name is Finbarr Buckley. I'm originally from Ireland, but I've been coming to India for about more than 20 years, but I've been living in India for the past 10 years. For a while in Calcutta, and for the last 5, almost 6 years in Mizoram. I'm basically a trainer and a coach, and I work with corporates and schools all over India. I think I've worked in schools in about most of the states of India, and I do trainings for teachers. Also working on school improvement plan and working with the leadership of many schools. But recently I have been working with teachers on this particular topic that I am going to speak about this evening, because I realized that there are so many good things going on in all of our schools, so many excellent schools all over the country with great management, great teachers, great results, wonderful extracurricular activities. One thing I noticed was missing in many instances was that students were not taking responsibility for their own learning and were depending on the goals, you could say, imposed on them by teachers, by parents, by teachers, by the school. And I really believe that if we are to enable our students to fulfill their real potential, then we must enable them to take responsibility for their own learning. And one of the ways I believe that we can do this as schools and as teachers is by having the teachers acting as a goal-setting coach for their students. Now, goal setting is very simply the process of becoming extremely clear about what we want in various different areas of our lives, in this particular instance in education, becoming very, very clear about what it is we want to achieve, writing that down and working on a plan to achieve those goals. And it has been proved time and time again that people are successful than those who do not set goals. It's a hugely important life skill, not just for students, but for all of us as teachers, as school leaders, and also for everybody else, that it's a hugely important life skill, being able to set effective goals for ourselves, because it is the key to achieving our full potential. And I really believe that if teachers can become goal-setting coaches, then the lives of our students will be transformed in ways that we can only imagine. And the reason is that goal-setting enables students to become independent learners who are taking responsibility for their own learning and development. And when they're taking responsibility for themselves and have set the goals for themselves, it's much more likely that they will work harder, and work in a more targeted, more focused way towards achieving the goals which we as teachers have helped them to set. And our classrooms will be transformed also if students are committed to goals which haven't been imposed on them from above, so to speak, but are actually coming from themselves, and that they have written down what they themselves really, really, really want to achieve. So from a young age, want to be, what they want to do when they grow up. But I wonder, how do we help our children achieve those dreams? And one of the ways is by helping them to really become clear about what they want to do and what they want to achieve. And it's something that, by many instances, is ignored or rather left out in our school day or our school year. Because those who set goals are much more likely to succeed in whatever endeavor they are working towards in life. And goal setting nurtures and develops a growth mindset in students. Because when we set a goal, it's normally something above and beyond where we are at the moment. And it focuses us on improvement and getting better and growing in our lives. And it instills good habits and new behaviors in us. Because when we have a goal written down that we ourselves have set, then it helps us not to have as many excuses, so to speak, that we can't say, oh, I'm only have to study because my parents want me to. I have to do this assignment because I have to hand it up to the teacher. But if we can help students to realize that they're working towards something for themselves and that what they're going to achieve is something that they themselves have identified, then the likelihood of them achieving it is hugely increased. And there was a famous study conducted on students enrolled in the Harvard MBA program in the USA in 1979. And the students who were enrolled on the program were asked, have you set clear written goals for your future and made plans to accomplish them? Now, 3% of the students had written goals and plans, 13% had goals, but the goals were not in writing, and 84% of the students had no written goals. And as part of this study, 10 years later, these graduated MBA students were interviewed again, and the results were very enlightening. The 13% of the class who had goals had an average earning nearly twice as much as the 84% who didn't have goals. But what about the 3% who had clear written goals? The results said they were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% in their class put together. And the reason extrapolated by the people who conducted the survey was that people who had set goals were able to make plans to achieve those goals because they were clear about what they wanted to do. Whereas people who didn't have clear goals set for themselves tended to drift in life and not get things done, not get things achieved. So why I believe that all teachers should be goal-setting coaches is that students don't know how to set goals automatically. Well, maybe some do. Some people just do it automatically, but most of us don't. So if it becomes part of what a teacher does, helping the student each year, each term, each week, each day maybe even, to identify and achieve their own goals, their own targets, then it gives these students an edge over students who have not set goals for themselves. And goals, when we set them, should be challenging, but they shouldn't be impossible. Because if we set an impossible goal for ourselves, we'll just become demotivated and end up probably not bothering to do it, and we'll just cast it aside. So a goal should stretch us beyond where we are now, or stretch students beyond where they are now, but shouldn't be impossible for them to achieve. Also, when we teach our students to set goals for themselves, it helps students to avoid and overcome procrastination, putting things off until tomorrow, because that's the bane of all students' life, leaving things until the last minute, not doing the study at the right time, just leaving everything to the days before the examination. But if we have set a goal for ourselves, and the students have set goals for themselves to achieve a particular grade, a particular percentage in the exam, and they can then break the work down that they work, and they can break down the work into manageable chunks for themselves. Because if the student becomes clear about what exactly they want to achieve, what mark they want to achieve, then the likelihood is they will become more serious and more focused about working towards achieving that goal. Also, when a student sets a goal for themselves, it helps them to want to be better, because when we ask a student to set a learning goal or a progress goal for themselves, they're going to set one that is a little challenging. And when they have set it for themselves, the student won't want to let themselves down by not working towards that goal. That's what has been my experience, at least, because I have worked on this goal setting, and I've trained teachers to be goal setting coaches in quite a number of schools. And I work particularly in recent years with the Don Bosco International Organization of Schools. I've worked in quite a number of schools where we have trained the teachers to be goal-setting coaches. And the principals in many of those schools have said that the transformation has been immense in the students, because they see students who are more focused, who are clearer about what they want to achieve, and are just more actively involved in their own learning. Because we all know that when students are actively involved in their learning, then their subject becomes easier for them. And there are many different ways of having the student actively involved in their learning, as you know. A lot of it is in the way you conduct your class, whether you just lecture or whether you do group work and pair work and project work. And the more of those kind of things you do, the more the student is involved and the more interested the student is in the topic, in the curriculum. But goal setting fits into this also, because when a student doesn't have the goal and doesn't have the target imposed on them from outside, their likelihood of planning much increased. So goal setting is something that teachers can learn how to do with your students. There are a number of different systems of goal setting. The most common one that I encourage teachers to use with students is called the SMART goal setting method. You've probably heard of it. The letters SMART of SMART stand for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And when we work with our students to set goals for themselves, we should enable them to set what are referred to as these SMART goals. So just briefly, many of you will be familiar with them, but just briefly to go through what a SMART goal is. First letter S is specific. So this should answer the questions who, what, why, where. The student sets a goal for themselves. It should be really, really concrete goal. Not that I want to do better in, say, the English subject, or I want to improve in English. That's not specific. But I want to get 10% higher in the next exam than I got in the previous exam. That's specific. I want to get 82%, 85%, or my board's exam. So that's when we get a student to set a goal, it should be specific, because the more specific it is, the more likely it is to be achieved, and the more likely the student is to work towards it. Outside of the education system, a specific goal, I often use the example of weight loss. If a person wants to lose weight, if you just say, oh, I want to lose some weight, that's a goal, but it's not specific. But if you say, I want to lose 5 kilos, that's a specific amount of weight you want to lose. If you say that, then the plans you will make towards achieving the goal will be more concrete also and be better. And we can apply that obviously to various different parts of the learning process. So that's the S of SMART. M stands for measurable. The goal should be measurable, that there should be some way of evaluating whether the student has achieved their goal or not. Again, say just improving is not measurable, but achieving 10% extra is measurable. The A of SMART is attainable. That, as I mentioned earlier, when we enable our students to set goals for themselves, the goals should be what are called stretch goals. They should stretch us beyond where we are at the moment, beyond our comfort zone. If a student has always been getting 60% in a particular subject, then the goal should be somewhat above this to stretch them. But it shouldn't be probably 95%, because when the student doesn't achieve that, the likelihood is that they will become discouraged or demotivated. So students' goals should be attainable for them. A goal should be relevant, and relevant to education, obviously. It shouldn't be something that is not going to be of any use to them. And a goal should be timely. That's the T of SMART. And timely means that there should be a specific time frame when a goal needs to be achieved by. If it's an exam goal, then the time is already set. But the goal might be to read a particular book or finish a particular book that they need to read. So just saying, I'll finish reading book X is not timely, but I'll finish reading a book by the 25th of April. That's a timely goal. Now, I don't have time to go into this SMART at any greater length than that, because it's a short session this evening. And all I wanted to do really was to just share with you what I believe is the missing link in our education system, that where we're doing so many good things, that very often we're neglecting to teach this hugely important life skill to our students. And that life skill is the skill of goal setting. So then we help the students to set the goal for themselves in the beginning, but that's not enough. Then the teacher has to work with the students constantly, because a coach doesn't just teach, say, a coach of a football team. He or she doesn't just teach the students the rudiments of the game and say, now get on with it. The coach evaluates with the students what they will need to do to improve, how they have got on so far. They analyze the first game they've played. They will help them to see what they need to do better in the next game. So it's the same when a teacher is a goal-setting coach for her or his students. You will, first of all, enable them to set SMART goals for themselves. They may not be just a particular grade in an exam. They may be much bigger life goals they'll want to set for themselves, like the career they want to follow after school. And once they have set that goal and become very clear on what they actually want to achieve, then it'll be easier for them to put the steps in place that they will need to do in order to achieve those goals. For example, if they become very clear that they want to study medicine to become a doctor, then they can start looking at the different steps that will need to be taken, what subjects they will need to take in class 11 and 12, what grades they will need to get in order to get the medical college that they want, the place in the medical college that they want, what other requirements are needed. And they can do those in a timely manner because they have identified the goal that they want to achieve far in advance. So the teacher doesn't just help the students to set the goal in the beginning. There's more to goal setting than that. And there's a system for ongoing goal achievement, particularly in schools, I refer to it as the PERI system, PERI, and that means plan, execute, review, and improve. And that doesn't just apply for students. It can be used by principals for school goal setting for their whole school, and goal achievement and reviewing that. Next step is to write the plan to achieve that goal. And as we mentioned earlier, the goal should be written in a very clear manner and be a SMART goal. Then the next step is to make the plan. And it's a circular motion: plan, execute, review, improve. You make a plan, all the steps that are necessary. And then the next step is evaluate, because any plan is not set in stone, whether it be a plan to achieve a particular grade in social science, whether it be a plan to increase the enrollment of your school by 100 students, whether it be a plan to have teachers more involved in the management, administration of the school, giving them more of an input. All those could be goals. So the plan will be put in place first of all, and the plan then needs to be constantly reviewed. That's review is the third one. So you plan, then you execute the plan. After 1 or 2 months, you review it, you improve whatever needs to be improved, and put that back into your plan, and you continue again: plan, execute, review, improve. So it's a very simple but a very effective method for making sure that you remain focused on your goal, that your goals for yourself or for your school don't become irrelevant, but are constantly reevaluated and improved upon, so that they're more likely to be achieved and more easily to be achieved. So for the past number of years, I have been working on this, training teachers to become goal setting coaches. And how I do it is I talk to them first about what is goal setting. We talk about the sort of academic background to our theory of goal setting. It goes back to two academics in America in the, I think, 1980s, Locke and Latham, who produced academic papers on goal setting theory. They developed this SMART goal setting system, which has been used. It's been further developed throughout the years by many people. You have different versions of it, like SMART goals, where they add maybe ethical and rigorous at the end, or smartest goals. There are different versions, but it's basically the same. So I train teachers on this. Then we talk about how to set SMART goals for themselves. As teachers, they have goals for each term. They may have goals for each student as well, and student improvement. And then I show them how to constantly work with the students to set their goals. Maybe they need to set a little time apart at the beginning of a class. And it's particularly effective for class teachers or subject heads who get some time to talk to students outside of the strict syllabus or curriculum or classroom setting, and maybe have a motivational or a mentoring function with students also. So it's particularly effective for those teachers, but all teachers can incorporate goal setting into their class, and it's been found to be really, really effective. And particularly for sort of higher achieving students, and maybe what we might call higher achieving schools, that it's really, really effective, because students who are already motivated and who are then taught and enabled to use this additional skill of goal setting thrive just beyond even what we expect because of the use of this method. So it's particularly effective for higher achievers and those students who have higher expectations of themselves, and also schools who are in the same boat. So it's, in my belief, a really, really effective way of improving learning outcomes for students by simply just helping and teaching teachers how to become goal-setting coaches, and just making this part of the fabric of the school that everybody sets goals, from the principal down to teachers, administrators, the students, that everybody has written goals. These can be shared in certain contexts among each other, among students, among staff, principal to staff, in various ways. But most schools that I have worked with on goal setting have told me that the outcomes, particularly learning outcomes for the students, have been immense. So that's why I think it's a hugely important thing. I refer to it as the missing link in our education system. And I'm just really delighted with the opportunity today. Goal setting is for students, and how beneficial it is when teachers are goal setting coaches for their students. Thanks. I'll hand you back to Shilpi now.
Thank you. I was very keenly listening to all that you were telling us, Finbarr. So, if I ask you a question, it would be that goal. This word is very common. Goal setting.
Sure.
There should be a goal in life. There should be a goal without which we do not know our way, because goal actually specifies our path. Now, is there a bigger goal, and that goal can be divided further into smaller goals? For example, if somebody says, I want to
absolutely
run for elections. Now, if somebody says, I want to run for an election when I grow up, I want to be the leader in the country, then, that's a very big goal. Now, how do you go about achieving that? Do we have to then subdivide it?
Yeah. That's a life goal, and it can still be a SMART goal, but then it's something that it's done in the long term, and there are various what we call milestones that you will have to achieve. You will have to most likely get a certain level of education. You will have to join a political party, most likely. You'll have to learn about the system of politics. You will have to do various things. So it's important that's part of, there's sub goals, but they're also part of the plan. So they're life goals. We can set goals in so many areas of our life. Health goals for ourselves. We can set education goals. We can set relationship goals. We can set wealth goals. We can set goals for doing good for others and others. So many areas of our life we can set goals on. But when we set a big goal, like the one you mentioned, it's very important to break that down into a series of smaller goals. Say, if you want to become a politician, the likelihood it will be 10 years' time before you do it. So what you will need to do then is say towards achieving this goal. Where do I want to be? After year 5, where do I want to be? And if I want to be in a particular place after year 1, what are the steps that I need to take now in order to get there? What are the obstacles on my way? And what are the things I need to do to overcome those obstacles? Because if you look at any of successful people, business people, they'll always give advice. You can achieve whatever you want. First of all, if you know what you want to achieve, that's why goal setting is important. Because, as I say, if you don't know which road you want to take, then there's a scene from Alice in Wonderland where I think it was the white rabbit, and he said, where do you want to go? And she said, I don't know. Well, he said, it doesn't matter which road you take, then take any road. So it's the same with goal setting. Unless we've become clear about what we want to achieve, then we can't make a plan to achieve it because we don't know where we're going. So it's important whenever we set goals for ourselves or help students to do that, we break them down into manageable chunks of work or manageable timeframes and set milestones for ourselves along the way so that we can identify and measure. We said a SMART goal should be measurable.
Yeah. And
steps,
when we talk about goals
towards achieving measurable.
So when we talk about big goals, sometimes So can goals be modified? We do talk about paths being modified. One path doesn't lead you to that goal. You can, rectify,
Yeah.
modify a little bit. So can goals can also be modified? And if they are modified, do we call it a failure? If I say, for example, let's take the same example. If I want to become a politician, if I want to get into political leadership, now if I say I wanted to be the president, but now I feel that that's really really a very big goal. Can I just say, okay, I'm modifying it? I might not go to that national level, I'll stay to the state level. So is can I then tell myself it's a failure, or still can I say I am successful in achieving what I wanted?
Goals are constantly flexible, and they must be, because otherwise our goals are controlling us rather than we controlling our goals. The goal
Yeah,
basically is what you
yeah,
want to do,
exactly.
what you want to achieve. What you want to achieve when you're 21 might be very different from what you want to achieve while you're 31, because of life experience, things that have happened along the
Yeah,
way, just things you have learned, people you have met. So our goal is them, and it's not a failure, because it's what you want to do at this particular time. If you've changed what you want to do, then your goal has changed, and it's no point in working towards a previous goal because it's irrelevant. So the goals are a part of us, what we want to do in our heart of hearts. What do we want to achieve now? And we use them for going forward. Goals
yeah,
are not behind us, whatever's ahead, to where we, in our heart of hearts, want to reach. If you want to
yeah.
reach a particular point, the only relevance of goal is that it's identifying the path ahead, helping you to see the road you need to take. So it's not a failure, it's just identifying at this point in time what you want to do moving forward. It's always forward thinking. So that's my feeling on it anyway.
Thank you so much, because sometimes these days we hear a lot of things. Oh, I mean, when we were growing up, there was nothing as a failure or a success. We were like, okay, if you are living a comfortable life, you have done well, quite well, and people used to say, oh, she is good enough, or he's living a very happy life. That was the
Yeah.
definition of success. When people said, oh, they are very happy, they're very happy in whatever they're doing. Now it is like a
Yeah.
position. What are you doing? When I meet my friends, or after a long time, the very first thing they ask is not how are you and where are you, like what are you doing these days. So I mean, that question has totally changed.
Yeah.
The answers have totally changed. So that is why I wanted to ask you that question. That thank you very much for putting it. That goal actually shouldn't be controlling us. We should be controlling our goals, and goals do not define our failures or
Yeah.
successes. Goals
Exactly.
can change
Exactly.
according to the
Yeah.
situation, according to
It's just
situation.
helping us to
Yeah.
helping us to chart our path forward. Yeah.
Yeah, helping us to track the path.
And
So
there was a
that
time
is
when
what I also
people were
wanted.
considered failure unless they were going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I
I mean, that
interrupted
is what I wanted through you
you.
to reach the students who are watching us, or even teachers who are aspiring to be more than what they are today. That success doesn't mean that you need to uh,
Yeah.
have. I mean, being ambitious is good enough, but then according to circumstances, also step by step, whatever you achieve is your success. You might want it to be a
Exactly.
doctor, but if you're not a doctor and you are a successful professor in
Yeah.
that subject, it's success in its own way. And if you're
Yeah.
happy doing that, then that's actually success. So you
Absolutely.
have
And
achieved
goals
your
are
goal.
so personal that they're not. If I want, they're goals for what I want for myself in my life,
Yeah,
not what I want to achieve. And there are some people who think you're a failure unless you're a doctor or engineer or a
yeah,
lawyer. But a student may not want to do that. And I think that it's very important that we as educators help students to realize what they do want to do with themselves. And we help them not to get caught up in just going into a particular because of their family background or their social background, whatever.
Yeah.
That it's important to help students to identify what they really want for themselves, because we all have only one life to live, and that we have a duty to live it as well as we can, so, and to be as fulfilled as we can. So I just think that it's important for us as educators to help students to identify what they really want to do with their lives.
So thank you, Finbarr. I think through discussion with you, what we have realized that being happy, I mean, even in present scenario, being happy should be our goal. And whatever gives that happiness.
Yeah.
If I want a dream to be something, and if in achieving that I'm feeling happy, then that is actually a good goal. But if the goal is pressurizing me, if my goal is to make someone else happy to achieve that, then that is actually not my goal.
Yeah.
That doesn't pertain to me. So thank you so much. And I think in leadership also,
exactly, it's not your, exactly. You're trying to achieve somebody else's goal for you.
Yes. So I think this is what you must be doing with in the teachers training also.
It's relevant for
you must be telling teachers to to achieve the goals according to their capability.
Yeah, and sometimes
also with children.
Capability. How do you say? They're all have different types of intelligence. Not all students are academically as bright as others. That doesn't mean they can't have as worthwhile goals for themselves, or can't have as fulfilling lives and careers as those who are more academically inclined. So helping students to identify what's right for them and working towards that is, I think it's a real job of a teacher.
Yes. And for the teachers themselves also, they shouldn't be having goals like I want all my 640 students in my class to get a percentage, a very high percentage in their subject, because this is your goal. But then you have to see the children also. Every child has his own potential. So you might get disappointed if everybody doesn't score the same percentage. So I think a teacher also personally should have goals which she has to assess with the class and with the students.
Exactly. The goal might be that every child improves by a particular amount over the course of a year.
Yes.
That would be maybe a more better way of doing it, saying that every student in my class will improve by at least 5% this year, so that the weaker students can improve. Doesn't mean that the brighter ones can't improve by more than that, but that there should be a goal that kind of helps all students to improve, and that's maybe the key to good teaching anyway. That is differentiated. A teacher is a homogenous group, that every student is different. The improvements needed for every student is different. All students have different learning styles, and that maybe the key to good teaching, in my view, is sort of differentiating what you do so that you're catering to the different learning styles of various students.
Exactly. So thank you, Finbarr. Thank you so much. It was a lovely discussion, and we are looking forward to having another session with you in the near future. So have a lovely evening and enjoy the weather in Mizoram.
I enjoyed it very much.
It's getting hot here.
Yes. Thanks. It's great to have the opportunity to speak this evening. What's the temperature like there? Hi.
Yeah, thank you, and stay safe. Be happy.